kids that are striking today and have been striking since December of last year. The schools, some of them have released the kids, but some of them are penalizing the students who are out striking today around the world. So I wrote a doctor's note. I have a PhD in atmospheric chemistry, but I'm Earth's doctor, and she has a fever. And to the other people who complain that this is child abuse, letting you kids be here, to them I say, leaving you a world mired in ocean acidification, sea level rise, mass extinction, an ever-heating planet that is already exacerbating drought, desertification, flooding, disease, and creating climate refugees. That's child abuse. And that child abuse is occurring on a generational scale. These things that I listed, they're going to get worse the longer that we wait to act. The climate crisis, it is not decades away. It is here today. My dress is global temperature data.
What?
Children who are here today, the red part of my dress, this is your life. You have never lived on Earth during a time that was colder than average. In fact, during my lifetime, there's only 1 year of my life when I was a toddler that was colder than the 21st century average. All of this heating, it's from burning coal, oil, natural gas, animal agriculture, especially from beef, which we're seeing the effects of with the burning of our Amazon. Most of that's for beef. So let's put our emissions into perspective with something that, right, most of us are Washingtonians, or you can claim to be, you're here. Volcanoes. Which way's Mount Rainier? Mount Rainier is not out today. So Mount Rainier, Mount Baker, Mount St. Helens is down, right? I grew up here. I saw Mount St. Helens erupt from my front porch. And it was spectacular. It made headlines around the world. How many of you kids remember Mount, well, you don't remember it, but how many of you heard of Mount St. Helens and its eruption? Everybody. People around the world still remember that. So let's put climate change, the emissions that come from burning coal, oil, and gas in our homes, our buildings, our factories, cars, ships, airplanes, deforestation, animal agriculture, all these things emit emissions. Let's put them into the perspective of a Mount St. Helens eruption. All of those emissions in 1 year is 4,500 Mount St. Helens eruptions. In 1 year. That is 12 eruptions every day. Imagine if we could see that. Imagine the news reports. That would be national news. It would be international. It would be global emergency. It would be a crisis. And it is. So, more than half of those emissions, right, those volcanic eruptions worth of emissions have been going on since, here's my dress. You can see it's been getting warmer. They've been going on for a long time, but they're accelerating. Over half of all of the carbon emissions, the pollution, the methane, the carbon dioxide that's gone into the air has happened in the last 30 years. James Hansen first told Congress, we need to deal with this. We need to stop burning coal, oil, and natural gas 30 years ago. We've known for a long, long time. My 11-year-old son, just in his lifetime, has been 20% of all emissions. And I'm talking all emissions since we started burning coal back in London. So these emissions, we see that they've heated the earth. It's right here in my dress, right? This is the data. And 90% of that heat, it's gone into the oceans. When you heat up water, even you young kids, you know, when you heat up water, it evaporates. It evaporates more. And warmer air holds more water. It's physics. It's chemistry. And physics and chemistry do not negotiate. This added heat has supercharged hurricanes. Dorian, think of Dorian and Maria and Harvey and Katrina. It's made any hurricane that exists today more deadly and more destructive because there's more water. People impacted by these hurricanes, they are not the ones who caused this. It is the richest 0.54, if we think about emissions, the richest 0.54% of world population, which is about 42 million people, they emit more emissions in terms of lifestyle emissions than the poorest half of global population. 0.54% of the population emits more than 3.8 billion. So when people talk about population as an issue related to climate change, sure, population is part of the problem. The solution to that is to educate girls and to educate women and lift them up. And burning fossil fuels is toxic, not just for climate, also for human health. Air pollution from fossil fuels kills an estimated 425 Americans every day. And we are subsidizing the fossil fuel industry to the tune of $4,600 from each tax-paying American every year. We're spending more on tax subsidies to the fossil fuel industry than we are on education in this country.
What the heck?
I agree. And the damage from toxic fossil-fueled climate change is already hurting the economy and workers here in Washington state. Because of ocean acidification, oyster farmers can no longer grow oysters naturally in Hood Canal. Baby oysters dissolve in the increased ocean acidification that we have experienced already. Since about 2010, oyster farmers have had to grow the baby oysters in buildings in Hawaii. And then once they're big enough to survive, then they're shipped over here and put into Hood Canal. That's expensive for them. A lot of them have gone out of business. And because of warmer oceans, there was an article just over the past couple of weeks saying that the kelp forests in Washington state have declined something like 90%. And over the past just a few years, the kelp forests all up and down the California coast and around the world have declined over 94%. And then we have a climate wrecking ball that's being built in our state. A fracked gas LNG plant is being built on treaty land in Tacoma.
What? Double boo, triple boo, all the boos I've ever booed.
It's being built on land that is forecast to be impacted by sea level rise within 30 years.
What? What?
And the Puget Sound Energy that is funding this with ratepayer money mistakenly thinks that natural gas is cleaner for climate. Well, atmospheric chemistry research shows that natural gas is likely as bad or worse for climate than coal. And here's why. A little chemistry. You got a chemist here. Natural gas is mostly methane. So that's a carbon molecule with 4 hydrogens. It kind of looks like this. Okay? And it is a super strong greenhouse gas. It is 86 times stronger than carbon dioxide for about the first 20 years. And then after those 20 years, it turns into carbon dioxide. So then it sticks around for centuries, continuing to heat the planet and acidify the oceans. So when we use natural gas, it's a gas, right? It's not a solid like coal. It's not a liquid like oil. It is a gas. And all your kids know that if you take a balloon full of gas and you pop it, it will leak, right? So gases leak. And any leak rate over about 3% means that using natural gas is worse than coal. Right now, the research shows, the studies show, right, it was just an article in National Geographic detailing all of the studies that are out there, we are over that 3% threshold. And to add to this, the fossil fuel industry has known. They've known since at least 1982 that CO2 and methane pollution from burning coal, oil, and fracking natural gas would destabilize climate. Exxon's own models, they have their own climate scientists, their own models from 1982 agree with our best climate scientists' models. Their models predicted back in 1982, 37 years ago, where we would be today with carbon dioxide and temperature. We are here. And they knew it. They knew where we were going. And they hid it.
They what now?
They lied to us.
What? Why?
They obfuscated the science. They maligned the scientists. They scared me away from doing what I'm doing today. My colleagues, Michael Mann, I saw him be maligned and attacked by the stooges of the fossil fuel industry, and it scared me. As a young scientist and as a woman, I did not have the courage to stand up in 1999. I even wrote about it in my journal. Said, I have information that I should share. And in my journal, I talked about coral reefs and ocean acidification. But I was too scared. And that was 1999. So, the science is clear. The fossil fuel industry for 30 years, they've been winning. They scared me away from doing what I'm doing today. But now, it's our turn, together.
Yeah.
The science is clear. Earth has a fossil-fueled fever. We cannot afford to keep digging and extracting for more coal, oil, and natural gas. To avoid dangerous climate impacts, according to the IPCC report, the 1.5 report, in order to meet that 1.5, we have to leave half of the known reserves in the ground. That means we can't afford to go digging for more. We can't afford to have an LNG plant in Tacoma. And we can make these changes. We already have all the tools and technology that we need to address this climate crisis today and to transition to renewables. Solar prices, they've dropped so much. It's now competitive with fossil fuels today. Coal companies are going bankrupt. Every week I read another article. And if you look back, a lot of you remember when Star Wars came out in 1977? Solar cost $77 per watt to install. It was expensive. Today, the price of solar is about 10 to 20 cents per watt to install. In Washington State, where we live, we have some of the cleanest electricity in the world thanks to hydroelectric, wind, and solar power. We need to help people use this clean electricity and transition off fracked natural gas, oil, We don't use coal anymore, thankfully. In our homes, our buildings, and in our transportation. People still have coal in their homes?
Oh no, but PSC's coal. I mean,
Then yes,
a lot.
coal, oil,
A lot.
and natural gas. So we need to get off of this in our state. And getting people off of natural gas and coal and oil and onto renewable electricity should not depend on income. My parents are small business owners, or they retired, and they depend on Social Security. They don't have a pension or a 401k, so when their hot water heater broke last spring, they could not afford to get one of those newfangled heat pump hot water heaters. It was too expensive. Climate policies need to help people who are on low and fixed incomes to transition off of toxic fossil fuels, natural gas, and onto electric in their homes. And for those of you who are in families with the means, the money to transition to electric, please do it. Make your next car, if you have to have a car, electric. Make your next stove an induction stove. Make that next heater or air conditioner a heat pump. Make that next vacation or a train or a road trip, right? There's lots of ways that we can make individual choices. But if individual choices were enough to solve this, I would have solved it. It's not enough. We have to make changes at the state level, at the country level, in the world. And the generations and the fossil fuel industry need to stop stealing your future. We adults, it's our turn to heed your cries for action, to vote to protect your future. Kids have been striking in Europe since August of 2018, in Seattle since December of 2018. These kids, they're trying to pass the baton of climate action onto us adults. We need to grab that baton and we need to run with it. It's our turn, adults, to make our voices heard. We need to tell our elected officials to pass legislation so all Americans, not just those who can afford it, all Americans can transition to cleaner energy and leave a stable climate for you, our children. And now, I'm a teacher, so I'm going to share this. All of you now know more about the climate crisis and some of the science than most people in the world. Share what you know. I read a poll that said that 91% of Americans now think that climate change is happening. What's missing is that they don't understand where it's coming from. They think, the number one question I get is it from humans, or how much is from humans? Well, according to the climate models, if all we used were the natural, right, if we had volcanoes and the sun and just the natural and didn't have any of the fossil fuel emissions in those models, we should be slowly cooling and very, very slowly going into the next ice age. We're not doing that. So that means that the warning, right, this red on my dress, that warning is more than 100% from us, because we had to bring up from cooling and then heat up from there. So all of that global warming that has occurred in your children's lifetime and in mine is from burning coal, oil, natural gas, and from animal agriculture and deforestation and land use change. These are the things we need to address. And just like you don't need to be a doctor to tell someone to stop smoking around a baby, everyone has a right and a duty to stand up and say, stop burning fossil fuels. And thank you again to the kids. Talk to your grandparents.